Okay, Saturday the 22nd of December 2018, just a few days before Christmas. So season's greetings to everybody. Good luck and good punting. Now today, as always, there's a plethora of races. We're just going to have a look at the last three races at Morpville for no particular reason. Now the rail is out at Morpville, which is not a great thing, but anyway, such is life. Go through this first race, race 6, very quickly. Having a look at Cockles. A couple of runs. He's come down or come from New South Wales. He's had a couple of runs first up. Been beaten a fair way. It's hard to see him improving, but in both those races they ran very fast sectionals. Basically you get back in a race where they run 33 for the last 600. It's pretty hard to make up ground. But we'd have to be risking him, but he could be a place chance. Counter spin, the same thing. He looks like he's racing okay. He just doesn't really look fast enough to be able to win the race. Cool Maverick, he's been racing okay. Race is handy. He's better in terms of the weights. If you have a look at the figures, he's down 9 on the figures, 60.5 kilos last time. The problem is he's back in distance. He does have a good barrier. There's going to be some chance. 3 weeks off back in distance, it is a problem. Jackpot Johnny is one of these horses that's been moving from one state to another and then back again. Sometimes they fire, sometimes they don't. The last couple of runs he's had wide barriers. So he's got a better barrier here. 1200 meters is probably about as far as he goes though, so that's a bit of a problem. 25 days off, so he's not going to be that fit. Pale Ale also has a slightly better barrier, gone up in the weights from having run second last start, so it's going to be there but kind of lacks that killer punch for being able to win. Now this is of course while the rail's out today, so this may be able to give him the advantage to be able to get away with this race. Dexter Your Devils coming from Port Lincoln. The Port Lincoln form's generally weaker. He has won a sort of slightly weaker race over this course, but again it was only in a small field, so he's a prefer. He's somewhat up in class looking at the figures, so we'd have to say we don't like him. And the same thing about Majestic. So looking at it, we end up having basically 3 chances. Out of those two, the 5 and the 6 are probably the likely chances, and they are the 2 favourites in the race. So that's about it for this race. Race 7 is the race where we're looking for a covered lay. In it we have this horse Zalmona. So I'll have a quick look at Zalmona's form. Zalmona won last start over 1050 in what could only be described as a scintillating win, charging home. The problem with this type of horse is it really only has about a 200 metre sprint, a typical 1000 metre style horse. Now today it's running in a much stronger race over 1200 metres. Always gets back, and looking at the second last run, which is over admittedly 1250, so the extra 50 might have been too far for it. Basically, from barrier 8, it does have the master rider Jamie Carr, who will no doubt ride it very well, but she's basically going to have to get back, and well, that 200 metre sprint probably isn't going to be good enough to win this race. So from the lay viewpoint, that looks like a fair lay. It's showing $3 on Betfair. It will probably be $3.50. So going through the form very quickly in this race, Takedown. It's one of these horses that come from, another one from Sydney, been running in top races though, but then it's got a top horse's weight, so it's pretty hard to see it winning first up, but it could run well. Casino Wizard has been racing pretty well. Did win a weight for age race there a few starts back. Went over to Melbourne for some of the bigger races and ran okay, and then had a wide barrier last time and didn't do so well. Again, 59 kilos. It's going to have to run very well to be able to win with that weight. There must be some chance. Go the Journey, up in class, another sort of leading type. Looks some sort of place chance. morp22dec2018 is an interesting sort of horse. Failed last up, but it wasn't beaten that far in the City of Marion quality. And in fact, if we have a look at the replays in that race, 6 of them were in it, but one of them scratched for today. Sorting according to the top one, Casino Wizard comes out on top ahead of Carlavasi. Those 3 horses more or less finished in a row, a fair way back from the winner, and it was a soft track. We're going back to a drier track today, so they may run better, but there's not much between the 3 of them, but they really didn't run that great in that race. Continuing on, morp22dec2018 could run well, may not, so hard to say. It's almost impossible to work out what this horse is going to do. Princess of Queens is one of the, in theory, chances in the race. It's dropping back from this 95 class back to this 90 race, and it's still got 54 kilos. The problem with this horse is it does get back in its run. If you have a look at its last few runs, it's nowhere near the lead, and again with the rail out, it could find it difficult to run home to win this race. The beauty about this horse compared with the favourite in the race is it does have strong 1200 metre form, and well, it did win a slightly weaker race at Morphettville earlier this year. Carlavasi, the same thing, it's racing well, it has got a win around this sort of distance, and it's going to be thereabouts. You would think it's probably more a place chance than a top chance of winning, but it's some chance. So you 2 ran on the same City of Marion quality handicap last time, finished close up, could run well again. Mazurek was another to run in that same race, as we've already discussed. It's been winning in slightly weaker company, moving up through the grades to an extent. Benz ran a good second placing 2 starts back, and does have barrier 1, so it's going to race handy. Maybe it'll try to lead. If it tries to lead, it's probably going to get beaten. It looks a place chance. We're on to the favourite, Zalmona. Again, Jamie Carr's on it, so again, if Jamie Carr wasn't on it, the price would probably be a bit longer, since she is the master rider over there, and rightly so. Very rarely makes a mistake and places the horses very well. So she does have a win, looking at the stats, or he at least. He does have a win over 1200 metres, 2 in fact, and he's got a win over 1250. However, horses can of course win in weaker company over longer distances. Once they get into stronger company, they quite often find it more difficult. Now, this may prove to be inaccurate, but going on the third 2 starts back, the 1200 metres is really not this horse's cup of tea. So based on that, we're looking to lay this horse and sorting it according to top to bottom. Casino Wizard, Princess of Queens, Carlavasi and Zalmona. Oh, well, Zalmona's the one we're laying. So basically there's these 3 chances, and then there's Zalmona. I would be looking more to lay a Zalmona and have only very small bets on these other 3. They don't look that fantastic chances in terms of winning. It's more Zalmona from barrier 8. It's going to have to get back in the run, and as I say, with that 200 metre sprint, it's probably going to find it difficult to win the race. So that's about it for that race. Moving on to the last race, we end up having another short price favourite in Quiddick. Quiddick is racing very well at the moment, and last start ran 3rd of 5, and could only be considered to be unlucky in that race. And prior to that won the slightly stronger race with the same weight. Admittedly it was a soft 5. There's probably not a lot of difference between soft 5 and good 4 in terms of these sort of races. This horse, as far as I can figure, is going through the grades and does look like it's going to win. Now the problem with this Quidditch horse is the same as with these others. It does get back a bit in the run, and from barrier 2 it may need a bit of luck, but it does have a fast finish similar to the favourite in the previous race, but this time it's running over 1,050, not 1,200. If it was 1,200, Quidditch would have the same problem, and that the distance was probably too far. So anyway, there you have it for today. There's no real multiple bets to be taking on these events, and the covered bet in race 7 is probably more a lay bet rather than rushing to back those other 3 horses to win the race. So we'll see how we go. This is the last video in this series, so we haven't exactly made a profit this week as planned. However, the wet tracks and so on are, well, somewhat unusual for this time of year. So hopefully you've learnt something from the course and you'll be able to apply it preferably in the start of next year. The races between Christmas and New Year's are usually even weaker than these ones, so good idea to just take it easy over the next couple of weeks. And January 1 usually is a bit tricky date, so after that, see how you go.